Well, Drea, I'm pleased to say this just in that according to an Abacus poll, almost three-quarters of Canadians believe there should be a public inquiry into China's election interference. Um,
Yay.
it's just too bad that Blackface doesn't agree with that. He's more concerned with a special rapporteur, not just a garden variety du rigueur rapporteur, whatever the hell a rapporteur is, but he wants a special rapporteur. Maybe eventually it'll be an extra special rapporteur. This, I'm surprised the numbers aren't even higher, Drea. As we've discussed, there's a few things that define whether or
Mhm.
not a country is sovereign. One is border control. Well, that's gone out the window with the Roxham Road disgrace, where illegal aliens are getting their suitcases hauled into Canada from Plattsburgh, New York, by the Royal Canadian Mounted Bellhops. And now we have China increasingly getting its tentacles into the Canadian election. And
Mhm.
first, Trudeau, when this story broke some 2.5 weeks ago, it was, if you're going to go after an Asian Canadian politician, you are a racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming from blackface, that's pretty rich, isn't it?
I know,
And
right?
and now it's, well, leave it up to me. I'll find a Canadian of a great reputation, beyond reproach, impeachable. He'll be my special rapporteur, and we'll take care of this behind closed doors. No, I'm sorry, not good enough. I think we need actually an RCMP investigation, Drea.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to see that. We need a proper investigation. The rapporteur is probably just going to be Justin in blackface himself. It's me. I'm impeachable. But it just shows that they clearly have something to hide. And of course, Katie Telford, I forget what her exact position is, but she's at the head of all of this, right? And she still hasn't testified or agreed to testify. And I know that there's some more information there. But Conservative MP Michael Cooper has been wanting to put that forward so that they could vote on that. And they're just stalling and stalling and stalling over it. So, I think this National Post article said it. What exactly do they have to hide that they're not doing this yet? Cooper says it's been now more than 14 hours over 4 days that the Liberal MPs on this committee have been filibustering for hours and hours and hours on a very simple motion to have the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, thank you, Katie Telford, testify before this committee. It really begs the question, what does the Prime Minister if I could read, sorry, have to hide? And that's the truth. And that's what Canadians need to get to the bottom to. But of course, they have this cabal where it's just all in their hands. So, and I
Well,
think that the chief of staff has testified in previous things in the past, right? So what's different here?
Well, you're right, but they're making the argument that it is inappropriate for a staffer to be hauled upon the car. Well, why? If this is about an attack on Canadian
Yeah,
sovereignty, i.e., our election process,
right.
there's nothing outrageous about that. And if she has nothing to hide,
Not
then
at
why
all.
not answer the questions? And by the way, let's face it, Drea, filibuster, that's just a fancy $3 word to describe a bullshit session. If you tuned in to watch the filibustering, it's absolutely pathetic. It's MPs getting up and reading verbatim newspaper articles. And then when they run out of that, they start reminiscing about their university days. It is just, you know, blood boiling, this entire waste of time. And you asked it perfectly. What is making them so afraid to have Katie Telford take the
Mm-hmm.
stand and ask some very fair questions about what's going on? I'm beside myself in terms of this response. But to me, without having the evidence, the fact that they're so scared, the fact that they're filibustering this, the fact that she and Trudeau are so reluctant for her to take the stand, I think there's something there.
Oh, I think so too. And they're buying time this way too, right? So the
Yeah.
more time that goes by, the more you have to cover your tracks. redact documents, whatever. So, I'm glad that the pressure's on. I'm glad that Canadians are aware of this issue, a lot of them anyways, and they're paying attention. I mean, this is a long time coming. It's nothing new. You have the Confucius Institutes,
Yes.
infiltrating our school system. You have the Belt and Road Initiative, even though we didn't sign on it. I've done reports on how it appears that we're participating in that anyways. And let's not forget the Conservative MPs who even called out before last year that they believe they had lost their seats due to this as well. So it's affecting a lot, and it needs to be sorted out before we have another election.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, all the apologists out there, the diehard Trudeau cultists who say, well, at the end of the day, it didn't affect the election. Well, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. The fact that it's occurring,
Right.
the fact that according to ex-Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole, 9 Conservatives lost their seats, you think that's okay? I mean, even if you added those 9 seats, it's still to the Conservative Party, it's still a Trudeau minority government. But I'm sorry, it's not okay. But, and the thing is, when I mentioned we need an investigation by the RCMP, I specified the police service, Drea, because I don't want the investigation to be done by the Chinese police.
Yeah.
It was revealed yesterday that another 2 Chinese police stations found in Montreal.
Oh, wow.
That's in addition to the 3 in the Greater Toronto area. There are dozens around the world. Drea, I'm beginning to wonder, with Chinese police stations in our Great Dominion, as you mentioned, the Confucius Institute in the halls of education, with alleged Chinese interference in our election, with blackface professing his great admiration for the basic dictatorship of China. Are we still living in Canada right now? Is our capital still Ottawa, or is it Beijing?
Yeah, the running China joke is becoming all too true. Like it's ridiculous. There's no excuse for what's happening, and this is not just happening to Canada. That's true, but I noticed Prime Minister Trudeau says that a lot. Like when he's responding, he's like, "It's not just Canada." Like, okay, what's your point? You don't get to just say just because it's happening there. You're just acknowledging that this is a huge issue. And yes, of course, even if one MP loses their seat or is even interfered, that's robbing the constituents in that riding of their right to elect, to come together and elect their representatives. So it's absolutely horrifying. And, with all of the concerns of election interference with the US, I mean, we've got our huge scandal right here.
Oh, no, and you're right. And evidently, the number of Chinese citizens that have been basically sent back to China, thanks to these Chinese police, it's something in the neighborhood of more than 230,000 the world over, Drea.
Wow.
And people wonder,
I didn't know that.
It's astonishing. And the way it works, they're not weaponized. They're not wearing uniforms. They just go to people on their list that have a less than favorable view of the Chinese Communist Party. And basically, it's the old, we can do it the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah.
We suggest you get on a plane and get back to Beijing tomorrow. Or, well, we know you have friends and family in China.
Yeah.
We'd hate for anything terrible to happen to them. It's coercion. I mean, go ahead, Drea.
I was just going to say, I don't even think they need to say that. The citizens that I speak to, especially during COVID lockdowns, a lot of them that would come out and protest China during those times, they'd wear the mask, they'd wear the glasses, and they would let me know that, they just know if they show their face, their family's at risk. So if the regime comes to you knocking on your door, you know exactly what that means if you resist. And so that I didn't realize it was that amount of people. And isn't it under the guise of some sort of fraud, online fraud? They're saying you're suspected of online fraud, so you have to come back to be investigated. I mean, it's just such nonsense.
You're absolutely correct, Dre. As I understand it, the way this was sold to governments around the world, including ours, is that we're after internet and telecom fraudsters. We have good leads. We can take the burden off your law enforcement agencies. And incredibly, and I say incredibly because you're dealing with communist China.
Yeah.
Maybe there are ones and twos or dozens maybe of actual telecom fraudsters being rounded up. But really, I think caught in that net are just people enjoying their right of free speech in a Western democracy and discovering to their shock and horror that across the pond, the censorious thugs of the Chinese Communist Party have come knocking on their door, doing a shakedown of them. This is despicable.
Imagine fleeing to another country to escape a communist regime, and you come to the land of the free, and that land allows that regime to come in and take you back. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine.
You know, and the same is happening in the Persian community here, Drea. You have Iranians fleeing the Islamo-Nazi regime of Iran. And I live in a city, Richmond Hill. I think the Persian minority is significant. I believe it's between 11 to 14%. So it is a significant amount. All the Persians I met, all the Persian businesses I patronized, the restaurants, fantastic people. They were fleeing the rubbish back home. And then suddenly you have bad actors being allowed into Canada, doing money laundering, people literally with blood on their hands. Oh, and forgive me, I almost forgot to mention, Drea, Majid Johari, the one Persian in Richmond Hill I have utter contempt for. He coincidentally happens to be the member of parliament for the riding of Richmond Hill. He's pro-Iranian regime. And
surprise.
Again, why do we seem, or when I say we, why does this liberal government seem to be getting, up close and comfortable with the bad people? The mullahs in the Iranian regime, the communists in China. It's such a grotesque insult to Canadians, law-abiding, tax-paying Canadians that want none of this rubbish.
That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.